Yusuf bin Asbat from the A'immah of the Salaf. He said, indeed my father was a Rafidi. And my paternal uncles, they were from the Qadariyah. Imam Yusuf bin Asbat. My father was a Rafidi, Shia. My paternal uncles, they were Qadariyah. Surrounded by what? Ahlul Bid'ah. He said, then Allah saved me by way of Sufyan. Allah saved me by way of Sufyan. How many of us are in that situation likewise, my brothers? That we were surrounded by Ahlul Bid'ah. Even in our own families. A man would say that my father is a Naqshbandi. Or my father is a Christian. Or my father is a Sufi. Or my father is Shi'i. Or my father is Brelwi. My father is Tablighi. And my uncles were the same. Or they were even worse. Then Allah saved me by way of Al-Albani. Allah saved me by way of Ubayd al-Jabari. And these are the very same ulama that these boys that are running around now in the UK and in West London. And I hear more so in these types of areas in West London. That these boys that are running around now, that their Salafiyah, by the permission of Allah, is attributed, and their entry into Islam, and their knowledge of Salafiyah, however small it was, is attributed to the very same people now that are being cursed by them. For no other reason except for their tahazzub, for their partisanship to a particular place or a particular location or to a particular man. So now the ulama to them have become dirty words that they don't refute on adab or akhlaq with the correct Islamic etiquette, but they refute by going beyond bounds, making curses upon the ulama, belittling them, calling them, like they say about Shaykh Ubayd, a blind old man who needs to make tawbah. Ubayd, where's the taqwa of Allah Jalla wa Ala? And they say about Shaykh Ubayd, which they get from their Shaykh, who says about our Shaykh, Shaykh Ubayd al-Jabari, that his speech is like the farting of an old man. This is befitting speech for an alim. This is befitting speech upon an alim. And what about Shaykh Rabi'? If I wanted to refute you, Rabi', if I wanted to refute you, oh Shaykh Rabi', I would write 2 books in refutation against you. And Shaykh Rabi', I know that you have been plotting and planning. And Shaykh Rabi', whose dawah has withered to the point of rotting. This is the speech that you use against Allama Rabi' bin Hadi al-Madkhali, from the great ulama of this era. You could not reach any of the level of Shaykh Rabi', yet you have such bravery to speak about an alim like this. And you say that Shaykh Rabi' is nothing more than a crow of dissension, describing him to be like an animal, a crow. The Salaf, when they use the word ghurab, that they used to use it in a disparaging manner. So now he's a crow of dissension, meaning a bringer of bad omen. This is Shaykh Rabi' now. What, we're supposed to stay quiet? What, are we stupid? Someone should say that about your father, you wouldn't stay quiet. Someone should say that, even if your father was a kafir, and someone should say that about your father. You'd soon be phoning. Say, Ya Shaykh, Fulan, no, my father's a kafir, but he called him an evil name, called him a donkey. Ya Shaykh, is it alright for him to call my father this? Even for your father who's a kafir, you wouldn't accept this. What about an alim of the deen, who gave all his life for the da'wah to Salafiyah, and he did not fear the blame of the blamers, and he stood firm, Shaykh Rabi', when the da'wah was being destroyed and the usul of Salafiyah were being altered. It was the likes of Shaykh Rabi' and the likes of Muhammad Aman al-Jami' and the likes of Shaykh Ubayd al-Jabari, who stood firm in the face of the likes of Safar and Salman and Abdurrahman ibn Khalid, alongside Shaykh Muqbil. These were the ulama. Now he's a crow of dissension. Well, we're supposed to stay quiet and not defend our ulama when the ulama are being attacked. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the fadlul alim al-abid, that the virtue of the scholar over the general worshipper is like the virtue or the brightness of the full moon over the rest of the kawakib, over the rest of the twinkling of the planets. This is the excellence of the ulama. So there is no doubt, my brothers and sisters, we don't take knowledge from the one who curses ulama. We don't take knowledge from them. We don't take knowledge from the one who attacks Ahlul Ilm. Those that when you weren't even born, Shaykh Rabi was giving da'wah. When you weren't even born, Shaykh Rabi was travelling to India and other places and giving ilm and disseminating knowledge and writing books. Shaykh Rabi was a teacher in the Islamic University of Medina, and you were still in your nappies. You were still a toddler and a baby. This Shaykh Rabi now is being attacked and cursed. And likewise Ubayd al-Jabari. With what right, ya ikhwan? For how long do we remain silent? If someone attacked Imam Ahmad, you would remain silent? Someone attacked Barbahari, you remain silent? Someone attacked the likes of Abdullah or Abdullah bin Imam Ahmad or Al-Khallal or Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Marwazi or Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, would we remain silent and say, khalas, let them carry on? Because he says he's following the Kitab and the Sunnah. What Kitab and the Sunnah are you following? When the flesh of the ulama, you are picking it between your teeth after chewing it. Wallahi ya ikhwan, this is something that Ahlul Sunnah do not remain silent when the ulama are being cursed and attacked. Rather, we come to their defense. A man came to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He said, I met Fulan and Fulan in the Harb in Mecca, and he was cursing the people of Hadith. So Imam Ahmad, he started dusting off his thawb, and he said, Zindiq, Zindiq, Zindiq. And he kept doing it up until he walked into his home in Baghdad. The ulama, the defenders of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you remove them, then where do we go to? Who do we go to for the nawazil, the juhala? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that indeed Allah does not take away knowledge by stripping it from the hearts of the people, but rather Allah takes away knowledge by the death of the ulama. So much so that none of them they remain. There does not remain any of them. And then the people, they take the ignorant ones as their leaders, and they give fatwa, leading themselves astray and leading others astray. And there is a group that when Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz was getting old, they couldn't wait for him to die so that they could spread their bid'ah. And when Shaykh Al-Albani died, that they were rejoicing that Shaykh Al-Albani is dead. Now has come the time that these people are waiting for the death of Shaykh Al-Fawzan and Shaykh Rabi' and Shaykh Abdul Muhsin and Shaykh Zayd Al-Madkhali, so that they can have their open field. But they don't realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved and protected this religion. It will remain protected, whether by a few or by a great number of scholars. Even if it be a few scholars, it will remain protected. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق, that they will never cease to remain a group of my ummah manifestly upon the truth, unharmed by those who oppose them, and unharmed by those who quit them. Meaning, those who abandon them, they don't care. Those who oppose them, they don't care. حتى يأتي أمر الله, up until there comes the command of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Meaning, and in one narration, up until the descent of Isa. So no doubt, my brothers and sisters, Allah will protect this ummah through the likes of Rabi' and Fawzan and Ahmad al-Najmi and Ibn Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen and Abdul Muhsin, Ahmad al-Najmi, Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wadi'i, just as Allah protected the generation that came before with the likes of As-Sa'di and Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Shaykh and other than them, just like Allah protected this da'wah and protected this deen in the time of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, and then again by way of his grandchildren and children, and before him the likes of Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Kathir and Imam al-Dhahabi. Allah protected this deen. So they may wait for the death of our ulama, may Allah Jalla wa Ala preserve them, that they want their death. One of those individuals, one of those muta'assibun, one of those fanatics, that he made dua against Shaykh Ubayd, then they plastered it on their website in the name of defending Salafiyah. They said Shaykh Ubayd, the Hizbi, the Kadhab, the liar, the distorter, may Allah rid the two harams from him. Meaning may Allah kill him. This is what they say about Ubayd al-Jabari. Why? Because he didn't agree with you. And they say that it is feared for him. It is feared for him ridda. apostasy and zandaqa and heresy. This is your ghulu. And then you say, where is the Haddadiyah in us? Do you not know what Haddadi is? They say to us, mention one trait of the Haddadi. There's one. There's one. That you see an error in someone that you disagree with. From Ahli Sunnah. So instead of refuting him with adab upon the issue, you go further. You make dua for his death. May Allah rid the Haramain of him. May Allah rid Makkah and Medina Abu Bayd al-Jabri, meaning kill him. And you believe that that's a valid dua because you differ with him. And because he differed with you in an issue, you say for him apostasy. Why? Because he opposed you, he's going to become a kafir. I always thought if you oppose the book of Allah in something in the aqidah, something in from the fundamentals of iman and tawheed, that it is feared for you ridda. It opposes you, so now you fear for him ridda. Says, I fear for him that he will become a kafir, an apostate, if he does not stop. Wow. So now apostasy is measured how much a person agrees with you. And we're supposed to just listen to this and say, khalas, we're not going to speak. We're going to remain silent. Because this is going to go further. They will go further. And they will not stop, because now they're starting on Shaykh Rabi. Just like they started on Ubayd. In the beginning, Shaykh Ubayd is wrong. Week went by, 2 weeks went by, Shaykh Ubayd, the Hizbi, Muqtadi, Dal, blind. Ubayd can't harm any one of us. Ubayd is a nobody. Blind man who needs to make tawbah. Now it's beginning on Shaykh Rabi'ah. And Allahu A'lam, unless Allah guides their sick and deviated hearts, that these people may not stop. But we as Ahlul Sunnah, who know our ulama, and know how to behave when an alim makes a mistake. What, Bin Baz didn't make mistakes? Al-Albani, Ibn Uthaymeen, they themselves, how often they would say, if I'm wrong, rectify me, correct me. I remember reading a question and answer session, there's a question and answer session with Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, published in book form. They say to Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, yes Sheikh, on such a day, a few years ago, that you said on one of your tapes, that indeed good and evil is in the hand of Allah. He said, yes Sheikh, evil, as far as what we learned from you, look at the adab within alim. Yes Sheikh, what we understood from you and from your writings and so on, that evil is not ascribed to Allah. Allah creates evil, but we don't say that Allah is the source of evil. That evil is ascribed to Allah. Allah is the evil one. We don't say that about Allah. But here you said that evil is in the hand of Allah. So Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen said, I make taraju. Atub ilallah. I seek forgiveness. I repent to Allah. Astaghfirullah atubu ilayh. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, ya ikhwan. Look at the taraju'at of Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. A whole book on it. On those hadith that he authenticated, or he made weak, or he made tahseen of. And then he changed later. Published a book on it, ya ikhwan. Showing how the ulama are. Not that they are free from mistakes. They're not free from mistakes. Shaykh Mubil rahimahullah ta'ala. When people used to say about Shaykh Mubil, ya Shaykh, you said some things about the Mamlaka. He said, in his final illness when he went back to the Mamlaka, look at the Shaykh. This is the quality of an Imam. He said, I see that this nation is built upon Tawheed and upon the rule of Allah and upon the judgment of Allah and so on. And he praised the Mamlaka. Even though before, there were some words from him with regard to criticism. This is how the ulama are, ya ikhwan. And when we see a mistake in one of them, remember that they are ulama. How are they to be treated? With the speech like this, like the foul speech of these individuals? These individuals, ya ikhwan, hudatha'ul asnan, as the Prophet ﷺ described the Khawarij, that they are, young in age. Their teeth have just started growing. That these individuals now, one of those that wrote a refutation against Shaykh Ubayd, I know about him. I know about him because of a brother that we know in Birmingham, Hafidhullah, Abu Yusuf al-Maghribi. Abu Yusuf Amal al-Maghribi. He said that one of those individuals, and he puts his name everywhere now, that he wrote an attack against Shaykh Ubayd, Shaykh Muhammad, and Shaykh Abdullah Bukhari. Especially strong curses against Shaykh Ubayd. He said, this boy is writing? I said, well, you know him? He said, yeah, I know him. And I'm from the Emirates. I said, how do you know him? He said, I met him at a circle of Bilal Phillips. I was going past and he was walking out. And every time I used to see them, because I used to go past them, anytime I saw some shabab who spoke from the West or spoke English, even they're from India, and this one was from India, I used to take them and I used to warn them against Bilal Phillips. He said, when I first started speaking to him, this was in 2005, 2004, 2005. Before that, he embraced Islam in 2001. He became Muslim in 2000. Imagine, Muslim in 2001. Alright? He was a Hindu before that. He became Muslim in 2001. When he became Muslim, he came with Jamaat al-Tabligh, and then he left Jamaat al-Tabligh after a couple of years. Then he joined Zakir Naik. Alright? So now he's with Zakir Naik, went to the Emirates. So now he's Alim, he's Zakir Naik. Before that, Jamaat al-Tabligh. Any Salafiyya yet? I can't sniff it yet myself. Right? Then he goes to the Emirates. In the Emirates, someone tells him about Bilal Phillips. So then he goes and sits with Bilal Phillips, and then he comes out and argues with this brother Abu Yusuf Amal, and he says to him, Bilal Phillips is from the ulama. How dare you? You can't warn me from Bilal. He said, Alim, this one is a Alim, Bilal Phillips. The man is a Hizbi. He's not Salafi. What Salafiyah does he have except that he connects himself and sometimes he may call himself Salafi. Other than that, he is with the Ikhwan. He attacks the Salafis, defends Safar and Salman, defends Muhammad Qutb, Sayyid Qutb, compares Sayyid Qutb and Maududi to Imam al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar. How is this man, you've taken knowledge from him and the ulama, Shaykh Ubaid and others have warned against him. He said, I continued with him up until he eventually left Bilal Phillips. 2006 or 2005. Right? Then, he said that then he didn't have anywhere to live, so I told him, come and live with me. So he stayed with me for a while, several weeks or months or whatever, stayed with me. He said, then the fitna broke out. He goes, now we're teaching him Salafiyah. He said, then the fitna broke out of Fali al-Harbi. He said, I'll give you one guess. Who he joined? Was he with Shaykh Rabi or was he with Fali al-Harbi? Fali al-Harbi. So then he started with Fali al-Harbi attacking Shaykh Rabi'. Now we're into 2006, 2007. Then he said he left. He said then we gave him dawah, argued with him, debated with him, and eventually he left Fali al-Harbi. And he said, okay, Shaykh Rabi' is the one. So now, Hindu, Tablighi, Zakir Naik, Bilal Phillips, Fali al-Harbi. Then he leaves and goes to Indonesia or Malaysia. Tries to say he wants to go and live in another Muslim country. Goes there, does what he does, comes back. From India originally. Then, comes back to the Emirates. And then 2008 or 2009, ends up in Yemen. 2009, ends up in Yemen. 2008, 2009, ends up in Yemen. Floats around for a while, and then eventually ends up in his final destination from where he writes the Rad. 50-odd pages against Maktaba Salafiyah. In there, page after page of cursing of Shaykh Ubaid al-Jabri and some of the other ulama. Fulan, Hizbi, Kadab, innovator. What do you know? You ever met any of them? Know any of them? Studied any books with any of them? Ever met Shaykh Rabi', anyone in your life? In there he writes, and even if Shaykh Rabi' defends him, Shaykh Rabi' is not ma'soom. So hold on. We should take the qawl of an ex-Hindu, ex-Tablighi, ex-Zakir Naik, ex-Bilal Phillips, ex-Fali al-Harbi, ex-Globetrotter, over the speech of Shaykh Rabi' because you've said Shaykh Rabi' is not ma'soom. So what? We're supposed to take your speech? Wallahi ya ikhwan, most of them who are writing are of that ilk and that caliber. Most of them who are writing are of that caliber.